insurance program that the district offers, that information is there. Summer school registration, SIGs, the extra, all of that information gets put up here in the spring in the summer school registration section. If you have a student who goes to PASAR, which that would be elementary school, if you have a K through 5 student, so you can take care of your registration there. And then over on the right-hand side, the parent viewer is where you go to look at their grades. Yay! So we're going to go a little bit more in depth into that section in just a minute. The academy programs, if you want information about the academy programs, once your student's going into high school, so if you've got an 8th grader, really like November through January is the time when you'll start seeing the applications that are available for the Plano ISD Academy programs. That includes the Academy High School, which is located at 15th Street and Alma. And then there's the Health Sciences Academy that's through Williams High School. And then the IB program, which is at Plano East. And they have all of the information on there with transportation options and things like that for those of you who aren't familiar with that. So there's some links here for you to go and check out those 3 academy programs. E-News, this section is where you can go in and sign up for any of the campus e-news newsletters that come out. So if you're not currently getting the Renner School newsletter that's done through SNOR, you can go in here and sign up for it there. You can sign up for any campus in the district. You can sign up for the district e-news, which gives you they come out on Friday afternoons, gives you school board updates and all the district news and stuff like that. And then any other campuses that you have children at. And then performance management. When your student takes the COGAT or the MAP test or even the STAR test, you can go into this section, click on their student name, and it'll bring up, this one usually takes a while, but it'll bring up all sorts of charts and diagrams and stuff like that. So for those of you who went to an elementary school in Plano, your teacher conferences, they probably gave you the printout of and they told you about the river and all that other fun stuff. Those charts you have access to on this page. You also have the chart with the COGAT scores, STAR scores for all the subjects, and it's all in one place. The other nice thing about it is, well, you know what, it's blocking the pop-up, is that with the STAR test, you can actually go in and get the Texas Assessment, I don't know if how well y'all can see, the Texas Assessment Portal access, and it gives you the code where you can go in and enter that code in the assessment portal, enter it here into this unique access code, and it'll give you the information regarding your students' testing. So you put the code in and see. Just so y'all can see what it looks like. Oh, no test down, nice. But it says, welcome, Robert Snyder, and then any assessments, like the MAP assessments, when they come out in the spring, you can go in there and log in, and it'll give you some more details about their STAR test scores. It'll have it broken down into categories, all that fun stuff. Because I know we love the STAR test.
Is some of this subject to the browser? Because sometimes I think that get more of the academics, it doesn't open.
You have to make sure that the pop-up blocker is disabled, because it's a pop-up window. So that's why I was like, oh wait, where's it going? But it's because it was blocked. So you just have to make sure you have your pop-up blockers disabled for that website. Okay. And then immunization summary, if you have a question about immunization. Okay, so parent viewer. So this, I'm not going to see this, is where you go, and it will give you a pull down for each of your kids. So I have 3 kids in the school right now. So you'll go here, and on the home page, upcoming assignments page. So it'll list any overdue assignments. So any assignments that a teacher has gone in and entered and said, the due date is September 4th. And until a grade is put in for that assignment, it'll be listed under the overdue assignments. Now, just because there's an assignment listed as an overdue assignment does not mean that your kid didn't turn it in. Like, this is actually a project that they did in their history class. Because when I was like, excuse me, where's that assignment? Why didn't you turn it in? He was like, we did turn it in, but she hasn't graded all of them. So, to give you a little bit of comfort from the teacher perspective, like, I'm one of those people, when I know what, like, my English classes are taking a quiz on Thursday. I've entered that quiz in the grade book. Because, as a parent, if I'm logging in and seeing there's a future assignment due that's coming up on Thursday, I can look at it and go home and say, okay, you have a quiz over your Greek roots on Thursday. Have you studied? It's Monday, so I'm getting some advance notice. So that's kind of one of the things that I like to do as a teacher to help from the parent side, because knowing that there's tests or quizzes or projects that are coming up, especially when they're major evaluations, then it helps you to kind of help your kids stay up on track a bit. The kids can access this too. If they log into their PISD account, which they can do from home, and they can be able to see what assignments are coming up, or if they forget what the due date is, if it's in the grade book, they'll be able to know and look up and remind themselves of what they have coming. So, so he's got some future assignments listed for history and French that are coming up for this week. So just so that you know, because I know I would get this a lot last year too, if there's no grade entered, it either hasn't been done or it just hasn't been graded and entered yet. You know, as soon as you see an assignment listed in the grade book, don't send an email to the teacher wanting to know why your kid doesn't have a grade for it. There's probably a really good reason. Really, the first person you should go to is your kid and ask them, did you know about this assignment? What, you know, because they're probably going to tell you, oh yeah, we just turned it in today. So just, as a teacher, I'll just ask, give a day or two before you contact the teacher back. Now, most teachers, once they're done grading everything, if there's some students who haven't turned them in, we'll put a 0 in there. Until that 0's in there, that means they've still got time to get a grade entered in there, okay? So that's kind of what this shows, and that's one of the things that we're also going to be talking with the staff about to make sure that they're familiar with what the parents can see, because they don't know that you can see grades, assignments that don't have a grade for it. Does anybody have any questions about this page? Yes.
So if something's got a 0, I need to go to the grade section?
Yeah, so that's the next page I'm going to show you. Yeah.
So
this just shows you things that don't have grades entered for them yet. So whether it's because the grades haven't been entered, it hasn't been graded yet, or they haven't turned it in and the teacher's giving them an extension on it. But the nice thing is it shows you what the due date is. So like this first one, the speaking PBQ, the due date is Tuesday, September 22nd, which is tomorrow. So it's not even due yet. But that's nice because I know, okay, for foreign language, okay, you've got a speaking test that you've got to do tomorrow. So I can kind of keep up with him and remind him. And that's really the nice thing about middle school is right now is when we're teaching them, trying to get them to be responsible for what they're supposed to be doing. So these are nice little, that's why I like to enter things ahead of time, just so that parents can kind of know, and just like with the reminds, if your kids' teachers have remind, I mean, we love to have parents signed up for those too. I sign up for, even for my daughter in high school, I sign up for her remind things for her classes, because then she doesn't have to know I'm getting those reminders, but I can ask her like, hey, so Spanish, how's it going? Do you have anything coming up? I know I've already gotten the remind that says they have a speaking test tomorrow, but she doesn't have to know that I'm specifically asking about that. So it's kind of a nice cheat as a parent to be able to make sure they're keeping up with the things that they need to keep up with. Karen?
I know you're saying that you're putting it in ahead of time so the parents can look, but not all teachers
Right.
Is there any kind of uniform rules about how teachers are supposed to?
Yeah, and that's something, we just had a staff meeting last week, and that was one of the things that Sandra was kind of talking to the staff in general about. It's still early in the year, so like, for instance, when progress reports came out last week, there were a lot of us, myself included, that were like, oh my gosh, it's already progress report time? Like, because we feel like the year is just getting started still. You know, because you spend those first few weeks still trying to get to know the students and get them into a routine and things like that. So that's one of the things that they did have a pretty healthy discussion about in the staff meeting last week about making sure grades are being put in. The official policy for the campus is that by the end of the day Friday, the grades are updated. So that's kind of a general rule of thumb that the teachers are supposed to be following. I wouldn't hold them to that during this first grading period, but you'll start to see that it'll be more consistent. I mean, like, I'm one of those people, I have an assignment that was turned in Friday, I have not finished grading it. So it's in the grade book, but there's no grade book, yeah.
So if you really see a zero, that means you're missing homework.
Once you have a 0, that means, and so that's where, depending on which class it is, whether or not they can still complete the assignment. Like, I can say for 6th grade English, if there's a 0 for a daily assignment, they'll have an opportunity where I'll let them come in for tutorials to be able to complete that assignment. But it'll be accepted late for paper. Some of the other classes I know, like for Algebra 1 is a high school credit class. So there's special rules that that class has to follow because it's going to be used to determine their GPA. So there are some, and you should have gotten, for those classes, you should have gotten like a syllabus letter at the beginning of the year that said what the rules were for late work, missing assignments, and things like that. For the most part, most of the, like 6th and 7th grade especially, will accept late work.
Yeah, sometimes I see her, well, my daughters don't remember things very well. So sometimes I see it already, so maybe a couple days later I will fill up the weight, I guess. I will always come to her, so when you have something overdue,
Yeah.
I turn it in.
Yeah, yeah, and that's just that delay between when the teacher enters the assignment and when the grade actually gets entered. So that part is kind of tricky, but that's, like I said, that's something that we're trying to work with so that the teachers understand what the parents can see. Because I've had conversations with teachers where I said, oh yeah, like blah, 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 and they're like, oh, you can see that? Like, they don't realize it. So I did, like last year, one of the things that I learned was that if you look at the actual, so here's, let me show you a couple of others. So this is the attendance summary. So if your child has absences, you'll be able to see whether it was excused or unexcused. For the most part, most of them will be excused as long as you've got a doctor's note. Or even if they were running a fever at home and they didn't necessarily see a doctor, all you need to do is send in a parent note that explains they had a fever, they were home on this day. You know, make sure you have your student's name and their ID number so that our attendance clerk up front can make sure to apply it to the correct student. The main thing with middle school is the tardies. The teachers can notate when your student's tardy to a specific class. So if they come in and they don't have a class from another teacher, they're going to get marked tardy. So you can kind of keep up with that and just make sure, like, you know, you've got 3 tardies for math already. What's going on? What's, you know, that allows you to have that conversation with your child. The next one, the schedule summary, just gives you their schedule, which we saw on that homepage also. And then the grade summary is where you can see the individual classes and then what grades they have in that class. And then you can go into and click on the grade and it'll show you each of the assignments and what they got for that assignment. So, and then it allows you to have that conversation with your child, like, okay, you're getting a 100 on a test and then you got a 0 for a daily grade, which you can have that conversation about, okay, when you have all these zeros for daily grades, it's going to bring your test grades down. So great that you're making these wonderful grades on tests, but if you don't get your regular assignments in, you're not going to be able to see the rewards of that because you're not doing the daily assignments that you're supposed to be doing. So I had that conversation this past weekend, obviously, with my child. So it shows you, and it's nice because it'll show you what's considered a major evaluation and what's considered daily work. So the daily work counts in middle school. Daily work is 25% of the grade. Major evaluations are 75%. For foreign language, it's a little bit different because they have daily work that is 25%, minor evaluations are 25%, and major evaluations are 50%. So foreign language is the exception because they've got 3 different categories of grades. And it'll show you the weight down right here where it says category, and then it shows you the weight, how much it is, and then how many points they've got out of the total. And over here you can flip through the different classes and be able to go and get the report for that class, or you can go back to the grade summary and click on the grade, either way. So, what questions do you have about the grade summaries? Anybody? Yes?
Are some of those grades, like major and minor, are they counted twice, or?
Yes.
I always
And
try to
you
figure out
can't-
that math, and it never works out for me.
Yeah, I don't think you can necessarily tell which ones are weighted differently from the parent side. Like we have for English, like a writing assignment that's just a daily grade will be a weight of 1. But then we take, every other week, 6th grade English takes a Greek roots quiz, and it's a double daily grade. So it's weighted twice. But as a parent, there's no way to see that. So it gets a little bit tricky. And I don't really know why that is. And there will be some grades, so one of the tricks that teachers have is to also weight something as 0, where you get a grade, but it's not weighted. So like if there was, I actually did this a few times last year where we had a test and we wanted a parent's signature if they did poorly on the test, where I had a grade item in the grade book that said parent signature on test, and they'd have a 0 or a 100. If they turned it in with a parent signature, they got a 100. If they didn't, it was a 0. And once that 0 shows up in the grade book, they're really quick to make sure they get the parent signature and get it turned in. So, but it really had no effect on their actual grade. It was just a way to see who had done it and who hadn't. So that's one of those little teachers and grades. But yeah, I don't know why you can't see how it's weighted. Because that does get confusing.
Can this evaluation be made up if the weight is?
It depends on the class. I know math has made some changes to that this year, and I'm not exactly sure what those changes are.
I think they're doing it the same, at least for algebra, it's the same as last year, where you do tutorial, but you can take it at the end, as opposed to remaking.
Right, so with algebra, it's different because it's a high school credit class. You'll take 2 or 3 assessments during the grading period, and at the end of the grading period, they'll give everybody a cumulative assessment over all of the material that was done during that time. And if that grade is higher than one of your assessments, it'll replace it. Now, for 6th grade English, when we take an assessment, they'll have the opportunity they'll have to attend at least one tutorial to go over what they missed and make sure they understand it, and then they'll have the opportunity to retest it for maximum credit. So if they make a 65 or they make a 95 and they're not happy with that, they can come to a tutorial and they can retake it for a maximum of 100. And there are students who will make an A on a test and aren't happy with it and will attend tutorials to try to get the 100%. I mean, which is fantastic because why not? I mean, if you have the opportunity, I don't see.
Can they do that in foreign language?
I don't know no, because foreign language is also a high school credit class. So there's different rules for that. So that should be like in your beginning of the year syllabus or parent letter that was sent home, the explanation of those requirements should be in there. I know, foreign language, algebra, geometry, and then there's also a gateway technology class that gives high school credit. So those are a little bit different depending on that class curriculum. Any other questions on grade? So how many of you get parent portal emails? Like grade notification emails? How many of you had no idea that you could get grade notification emails? So if you look down here, the options, your profile, and then down here is email subscriptions. So this is where you can actually sign up to get grade notification emails for any of the classes. So you can get attendance summary emails. So if your student is tardy, it'll send you an email. Or each week you can have it send you an email with an attendance summary. The grade summary and detail report will just show each subject and what their grade is. What their major evaluation, I believe it shows you major evaluation, daily work, and then their total grade at this point. So you can sign up to do that one. So I have them send me that one every Friday. I get a summary of what their grades are for each class. And then the next one is the student assignment report, which is kind of the same thing, but it's more detailed. It actually shows all of the assignments for the class and then shows what their grade is in the class. So sometimes one email will come through and one won't, so that's why I sign up for both. And then down at the bottom, if you want to choose the individual classes, you can pick which classes you want a notification for when they receive a grade that's lower than whatever you designated as. So, like if I only want to know when he makes a grade in math that's below a 70, this math is not working. You can come down here and change that to 70 and save it. So now anytime he gets a grade below a 70, it'll send me a grade notification. It just says, Robert Snyder, this subject, 65, or even a 0, or whatever, so it'll just send you a notification email as soon as that grade is entered, so you'll be able to see it. So you can set it for each subject separately, based on what your expectations are. Yes.
On the area where there's the checks for homework and other, I think that's where I'm having a
Okay.
problem.
So that's where, I'm gonna use this one. So over here, under the profile section, over here, this is where you tell it which email to send it to. This is the the home, the work, and the other. If you go into the profile, this is where you tell it which one's which. So you can put your phone number, whatever. For email, you can put my home email address is set up to my Hotmail account. I could put in here my husband's email account and designate it as the other. Or if I have a work account, like if I want to use my PISD account that I have right now while I'm teaching, I can set that up as my work account and tell it to send it to me there. And you can have it send to different, like if you decide your husband needs to be in charge of the science grades, you can make the science emails go to his account and you handle the rest of them, or vice versa, whatever. So you can have it sent to different email accounts for each class. Is that where you were trying to figure out?
I've tried to change something in that profile and it won't let me. Like I say, oh, my phone number's not the right one that's in there, and it's got like a little lock on it, and it won't actually let me change it. And I don't know, is this pulling from some other PIS?
It could be. It could be from your actual registration information. You can add a second phone number in there. You should be able to. And then with the email addresses, you can designate which one is your primary email address. And then that's the one that shows up for teachers also. To see, like when we look at the student demographics for a student, it'll give us the parent contact information. So it comes from the registration, but then there's also an extra spot where it shows the primary email address for notifications.
So the last time I did that, I was getting bombarded by emails. So it's now just on Friday or under?
It's when you tell it to.
Okay.
So if you go to sorry, I think the battery might be dying. If you go to, back to the homepage, on the email subscription, you can tell it which day. Like you can put, like if I didn't want it on Friday, I want it on Monday, I can set it up to send it to me on Monday. So it just depends on how many of those days you have.
And you have classes down below checked because you want grades on all of those, or it
Yes.
just does it automatically?
I checked each one.
But if you don't check it, it won't give you.
It won't send it to you. Yeah, it'll only send you for the classes that you want grades for.
And do you have to change the grade that you want to look at? Or is that?
No, you can keep it at 100 if you want.
Well, I mean, do you have to adjust that? I mean.
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm. No, whatever grade, like, I mean,
It's gonna show any grade, if you just leave it alone, it's gonna show whatever grade it is.
Right.
So if your child's grade drops, let's say below 70, you still get that email on Friday.
Yes, you get that email on Friday regardless, and it comes every Friday. Like, I had mine set up for Thursdays for a while, because, it would come Thursday at like 9 p.m. So it was like at night. Which was fine, because then, I don't know why I changed it back to Friday, but I did kind of like getting it on Thursday night, because it was, you know, okay, go talk to your teacher on Friday morning and find out, like, if you can make up that assignment, or if there's something you can do to help prepare for the retest, or, you know, that kind of stuff. So, but whatever, I mean, set it for whatever day works best for you. I had it set up on Thursdays because I was spending 3 hours sitting at the hockey rink during my son's practice on Thursdays. So I would get it while I was sitting there, and I'd be able to go in and check the grades and stuff like that, and just kind of keep, that was like, I knew that was when I had time to be able to sit down and look at it. So you can just kind of base it on, like, if you're a Monday morning person, kind of get a picture of the week, you can do that too. But just know, like, the teacher expectation is that grades are entered by the end of the day Friday. So by Monday morning, for sure, you should have a clear picture of where they stand at the beginning of that week. So one of the questions was about, like, how do you know if a teacher's, like, when they're entering the grades and stuff? So I was telling them that the expectation was by the end of the day Friday, that grades are all updated. Because they've said, like, there's assignments that don't have grades, and like there's an assignment in there but no grade entered, and how long do you wait to figure out
Right.
if it's a missing assignment versus a 0 that they can make up, so.
And hopefully the teachers are getting those in, like Rhonda said, you know, by Friday or whatever their team may have come up with a date. As a parent, I think what I would do, a suggestion would be, because it possibly could differ from content to content, is email that teacher and ask, you know, grades, you as a team or as a teacher, you put grades in, what is the latest for that week that you'll put a grade in? You know, is it Monday or is it Friday? But as far as like a common time, it probably is by Friday. Yes.
So Rhonda, these are the overall averages. This is your overall average of a certain class versus just a certain
No, the
grade.
choose classes section is for an immediate email. So like,
An immediate.
if a grade gets entered below a 70 for math, I'm gonna get an email when that grade gets entered. So that it gets put on my radar.
And it's an email or a text?
In email. Yes.
So I can get together with folk now with my husband. Can you just explain the tutorials? Is it truly sitting down with a teacher from that subject, going over whatever they've missed, or are they just, is it just an opportunity to make that examination?
It's an opportunity to go into the designated classroom and to have a teacher there who can help them with what they have questions on. Now, part of it, I will say, there are kids who come in and they just want a quiet place to work, and that's fine. I didn't have tutorials this morning, but I had 3 students who needed to finish typing an assignment from last week, that they came in and sat down and, you know, asked if they could use the computer, and they got to work, working on it. So they didn't necessarily need tutorials. If they're coming in having questions about something, it's coming in and sitting in the desk and letting the teacher know that they need help with something. So there is a little bit of responsibility put on the student as far as if they're coming in because they need help, they need to make sure that the teacher understands they're there because they need help. Because a lot of times it's kids who come in and just need a place to work, they didn't do their homework, or they forgot about a part, and they're coming in to work on it. So it kind of depends, but I know most teachers go around to the students and kind of make sure they're working on what they're supposed to be working on to see if they have questions. But especially, especially with the math tutorials, if they're coming in and having questions, those rooms are pretty full, so they need to be advocating for themselves to make sure they're getting the help that they need.
And when do the retake tests occur?
They arrange that with their teacher.
Oh, okay, so it's not during the tutorial time?
No,
Oh, okay.
no, they have to attend, like for English, they have to attend one tutorial to get help to go over the subject matter, and then they schedule a time with their teacher to come retake.
If their teacher is not concerned with the tutorial, say, when they attend, how do they know that they're actually attending?
We have a sign-in sheet. And they can just say, oh, I went to tutorials with Miss Snyder on Tuesday, and then we can confirm that with that teacher.
There is a form application to fill out to take the test. Where do we get that?
For like math, I think has, yeah, it depends on the different, classes, how they have it set up.
So they ask for the teacher.
Yeah, just have them talk to their teacher. Any other questions?
Now, in the tutorials in the morning and here, I've had a few questions on that. It's not really tutorials, right? It's kids coming in and working on things.
Well, there's
Working on math.
That's math, and we have very specific math teachers who are on that duty. So they have to have taught algebra and any lower level math, just in case you get the algebra kids in. So it's tutorials because the teacher does rotate around if the kids have questions, if they advocate for themselves. But it's also a math Starbucks type environment as well, where the kids may just collaborate, get with another group of strong kids, and they just want to, see if they're all have the right idea. The teacher may stop in to see if they're on the right track and things like that. So it's a combination of different things. The teacher does work with the individual child if they're asking for help, or they can work in groups, pairs, anything like that, just to help each other out with math. Pretty soon we will have the NJHS kids who will be looking for hours, like probably starting right about now because it's been established. So they will start coming in the morning times. We call this Mustang Math. The library is called Mustang Math. So that's kind of a term you might hear your kid using, or you may want to use with them. Did you go to Mustang Math in the library? And they should know what that is.
I have another question about, the end of the grading period. At what point do the grades that are in there become what you're going to see on the report card? The day of, or the day before, or like the?
That is a great question. And this is my answer to that, I can't, by educational law, I can't tell the teacher how to do their grades or when. Some of them may choose, I have a lot of teachers who it's totally about the child's experience. So they may take it up to the last minute before those grades are due, right? And I love those teachers. That means they're busting their butts, the last second, even for kids who haven't turned in work like they're supposed to. A teacher is willing to, kind of get on the rack of the clerk down there who is ready to go, or me, or whoever that is. But I like that. But for the common practice that I am aware of, most teachers probably, 3-4 days, something like that, they may tie off that 6-week experience, and anything after that, the 2 or 3 days that follow, they'll probably attach that work to the next 6 weeks. So it depends on the teacher, the grade level, and the content. There's not a real defined answer there. I know that doesn't help you, but it's just because the teacher does have the right to go to the last minute, actually, which will drive a lot of district people crazy, because they can hold up the whole system too at the same time. But you can't stop them from doing that.
So the end of the first grading period is next Tuesday. So for the most part, like by the end of this week, you should have a pretty good picture of the grade. I know like last year, it would be the Friday before, and we would tell the kids, this Friday is the last day. Like I just told my kids today, if you wanna retake your first Greek Roots quiz, you have to attend a tutorial and arrange to retake it with me by this Friday. So that gives me time to grade it and get it updated in the grade book before the cutoff on Tuesday. And there will be some, like if someone's absent a day or two, kind of the reason for the earlier cutoff is because if there is someone absent on Friday when they were supposed to come in and retake a test with me, like I want to be able to give them Monday to make it up if they can, so that we can get it in before the end of the grading period. Like I actually put myself in a hole my first grading period last year because I was letting them turn stuff in to the very last day, and like the end of the grading period was Friday, and the grades were due the following Friday, and I literally had a stack of late homework papers because I didn't put 2 and 2 together that meant great that you get to turn it in super late on the very last day, but I still have to grade all of it. So I had a stack of papers that I had to grade like after the grading period technically had ended so that I could do that final grade report before the deadline.
And that's the behind the scenes that parents typically, and students typically don't understand, that it just snowballs on the one individual teacher if you start to let the kids get behind you and you wait till that last minute to do the grade. It's just, like the teacher has no life outside of academics.
So like, for example, when you say next Tuesday, the end of the grade period, the Friday before, they better have any kind of zeros that are there that they missed or whatever.
That's what you hope, yes. Yes.
And I know I've had this conversation with several teachers because teachers didn't know that you could put comments in the grade book too. I meant to ask one of Robert's teachers to put a comment so that y'all could see what it looked like. But like I have comments in my grade book for the students who didn't make a 100 on their Greek Roots quiz that says can retake it until September 26th or whatever this, or 25th, whatever this Friday's date is. Like it has a comment next to the grade so that if a parent goes in and looks at it, oh, they made an 88, that they still have the opportunity to arrange to retake it through this Friday.
So you're saying you write that and that comes
in the comment section. So like if you're in the grade summary and you click on that, like it's got your grades and everything over here in this comment section, it says may arrange to retake by September 25th.
I've never seen it.
That's one of the reasons why we're going to do a staff training on Parent Portal, so that because that offers another way to have that two-way communication without the teacher having to send every parent an email. Because obviously that only pertains to the kids who haven't done that. So sending an email to the entire parent email address list, like 75% of parents don't really need to know that.
Right.
So that's one of the things that we're adding to.
So we addressed, because a small example came up at the staff meeting where one of the PACE teachers, like for the 3 weeks, she wasn't ready to put her grades in because she kind of had a prolonged assignment. And so the example was just, put that in the comments so that the parent knows that, oh my gosh, my kid doesn't have, no grade. It's just that we're working on a prolonged assignment there.
What does an X mean?
An X means they're exempt from that assignment. So if it was like an in-class activity or something that they missed because they were absent, then it doesn't count for or
It's not anything that you make up, it's just don't worry about it. Okay.
Well, and I will kind of piggyback on that though. So basically it's a code for the teacher. Now, it could be that they were exempt from the assignment, the particular child, for whatever particular reason, circumstances came up, something like that. Or it also could be, which is why you've got to clarify what that X means with your teacher. Ask your child, but you know how sometimes communication is with the kid. So if you go straight to the horse, you can ask, okay, what is this X for? Because it could be a placeholder instead of putting in the 0, like the kid has to turn in the work, it could also be, I used to use them as a placeholder, like you're an X here, but that X is going to turn to a Z or to a goose egg 0 if you don't get this into me. So, because you don't want to demolish their, you know, their confidence, you know, with a 0 and what it looks like. And sometimes you have to do that. But, you know, an X at least lets me know when I look at the grade book, oh, the student didn't turn this in. So I go and, little Sam, I need you to get this in. What's going on with this? All right? Or it could be that little Sam was really sick, so I'm taking that off because I worked in my head with little Sam that he does know this material, but I don't necessarily have to see it in the grade book. So it can serve as 2 purposes.
I think I've seen some that like that, who also put 1.
Or 1, right? They may have their little tricks of the trade.
And that's usually, they need to make it
Math.
up.
Right.
Usually, like if they were absent on the day of homework, like if they were here on Monday and they got the homework assignment, but they weren't here Tuesday when the assignment was graded or turned in. I know math frequently uses that where it's a 1. And hopefully a lot of times there's in the comments it says absent, where it's one of those like, if you don't want a 1 for the homework assignment, you need to make sure you get it turned in, get it graded. There's also, like I had a student who transferred into my class after the first 2 weeks of school, and so there was an assignment we had done that the class we came from didn't necessarily do. So I put X in that one and wrote a comment to explain completed before he transferred in or whatever. So hopefully that's kind of what we're going to try to accomplish is the use of that comment section so that you know without having to figure out what the different codes mean.
For athletics, there's no grade yet. I don't know how they grade athletics, honestly. So is that normal? Like at the very end of the 6 weeks, they just put a grade in, so.
Yeah. And if any of you have 6th graders, English, language arts, and reading, because it's a 2-block class, all the grades go in the English, language arts class, and then at the end of the grading period, whatever they've made in that class gets entered in the reading block for their grade. So you're not going to see a grade there until the end of the grading period. So a little trick, once you see a grade in the reading section, that means their grade is finalized. When that grade shows up.
You didn't see a grade for athletics?
For athletics, right, and even when I go on parent portal,
Do you have-
there's just nothing, it's 7th grade
A
athletics.
boy or girl? Because the girls did, so I'm going to talk to Coach Kelly and see what that's about.
And it's just on here, honestly.
What about when you got his progress
Well,
report?
that's, now I'm trying to remember, I'm like, oh, I don't recall, and he didn't alarm me either way, so
Okay.
I honestly don't remember on the paper one, but I know in here it's just blank,
Okay,
parent portal.
I'll find out.
Well, and does PE do weekly grade?
What was
yeah,
it,
they have a
athletics
week.
or PE?
It was athletics.
Oh, you had a question back there. Did you forget?
Yes, on the, no, I on the X's for the exam, is there just some automatic thing where those are not graded and?
Yeah, it's a no grade. It doesn't count for or
It
against.
doesn't hurt or help.
This may be very specific. My daughter is in 6th grade on her math, and they have a major evaluation, and then the teacher gave a piece of paper saying if you do this chart and things, you can get a half credit back. Just turning before this Wednesday. Can they still take the reading test, or they just do that?
What grade is that?
6th grade on her math.
Where they could do test correction
Yeah, that's correct.
and get half of the credit
Yeah.
back. So I think
They're doing
that,
both, I know.
They can do both.
Yes, which I was so proud of, yes, coming from the math experiences. That was wonderful, that they were willing to do that, which is a lot of effort from the teachers. But yes, that's an opportunity to get the kid to see what they did wrong, and work through that. That's kind of a process of a piece of the tutorial, I believe, is what they're looking at. And then also go in and take that reassessment. So I'm very proud of my 6th grade math department for allowing that.
So
They get to do
she
both.
wanted to retake it and she has
She
to
can go and
fill
retake
out
the test.
form and then ask me.
Now, for 6th grade, Well, for math honors, right now, it is the 6-week assessment. Right, so they take the 6-week assessment. It's not like if for the non-honors math, they get to take a retake after each test. But for the honors, it's a cumulative experience at the end of the 6 weeks that will replace the lowest test grade.
If it's the way it was last year, everyone's gonna take that test, and if that grade is higher than one of their other unit tests,
Right.
it will just replace it. So you don't take a separate sheet and go to tutorial or retake, it's just that last grade will replace whatever.
I wonder, was that maybe with their first test that they were able to test for? Because we did that with our last test each semester last year.
That last test, I mean, the test just replaced.
Kind of like a,
But then they still will do the cumulative to replace the last one after that.
they're gonna also start doing I brought that to the department about doing an item analysis, which may be a little bit of what they're doing here, it sounds like, but if not, that will be coming up, because that's a great way for the kid to learn what required teaks from the state, and it gets them to get on that side of their learning as well, to know where their gaps are in the objectives they have to learn for that 6 weeks. Or I know I'm kind of probably talking educational jargon now, but it'd be a really great instrument for the kids to do to get them prepared for that big 6-week assessment. Yeah.
Question, this is my first year, and I'm curious about the descriptions of unexcused absences and excused absences. But I know in the summary, the times I've maybe taken him for a doctor's appointment with a slip, but it shows up as an unexcused absence. So how do those differ?
Well, I'll tell you, the bigger picture problem is not you, it's probably user error, which is upfront. We have a new lady who is learning a whole new system, and it's very, very complicated. So we had just a lot of mistakes that were put on the progress report. So she is going back and fixing all of those. So if you disagree with something, would you please send her an email? Let her know I sent in a doctor's note, I sent in, a parent note, so that she can redo that, because it was just very, very overwhelming. It's a huge system, and she was just quite not prepared. So she's got down. That would be to Cheryl Ferguson, yes. CHERYL, and then Ferguson is FERGUSON. And you can put me on there as well if you could, so that I can make sure that it's done.
Can't read really rapid. This has been very helpful, especially about getting the emails. I have a question, and I know that a lot of classes are going, teachers are using Google technology. Is that really more teacher or class specific, or is it possible to have a feature ground bag to cover some of that, learning on getting into curriculums or teacher info or stuff like that? Or is every teacher doing it a little bit different?
It's all different.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all
Well,
I had the feeling.
And it's still very new.
It's not intended, the Google Classroom's not intended for parents. It's strictly consider it a virtual classroom. So just like you wouldn't be in the classroom with your student and the teacher, the Google Classroom is intended to be. Now, your student may log in and let you look at it and see it, but without their login, you can't access it.
Well, and I
as a
think
parent.
where I'm coming at is in the parent night, several of the teachers would say, if your student has forgotten that book, they can go in and they can get everything they need. So I guess they know how to use it, and there's really nothing that.
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with educating the parents, because if you're a parent like me, you got every password that your kid thinks they have, right? So you could definitely, we can definitely look at having a technology night of some sort with parents and helping out with the Google.
Those of us that are literate.
Yeah, no, I get you. Trust me. You'll like that? Okay.
Yeah, because I will tell you, in high school, every classroom, every teacher uses Google. Like core
Well,
classrooms use
There's a big,
Google
I've seen
Classroom.
the big push this year.
Yeah.
Yes.
And a lot of that came from because high school uses all of it. There's no more turning in papers. It's all type it up through Google Docs and submit it through the Google Classroom.
Laura, I'm sorry, okay, this goes back to the grading and the timing and just concern, and again, I know it's the first 6 weeks and things can get crazy, but like the first, and this is in an honors math class in 7th grade, the first assessment, when I got the progress report, I was like, like, cause I had, you know, time went fast, parent report, and I see a grade, which is lower than usual, and the test hasn't come back yet, so I had no idea, and neither did my son. He was like, I did awesome on it. So he wants to pursue the retake, and we emailed the teacher, and that's fine. I said, but we need to see the test, because I'd like to know what did they miss, and the response was, well, we can't send it home yet, because we had so many absences that kids are still taking tests. So tomorrow is the overall assessment, and he's still never seen that test, so I have no idea what he's missing.
I know, and you know what, and I just had a parent who, and I love her math mind, and she just brought that up as the PTA meeting ended. And I literally wrote it down right here in red that I'm going to talk to my math department head about. Now, that's kind of a bigger thing that I have to go and include our district math coordinator on that as well. Because here's the problem, and I know the mom goes, well, but it's just so easy to remake tests. Yeah and no. Unless you're a teacher, you know, it's trying to.
It's not as easy as just
trying
changing
to
the
qualify,
numbers.
you know, what we do. The policy right now is the tests do not go home because of obvious reasons.
My son he's doing algebra, and we are doing tutoring outside of school, and
But how
and
useful?
he had a test, it wasn't so great, he's, well, what is he, I don't know what he.
I know, and that's the sad part about it is that, you know, the kids should be able to use that tool
Right.
to prepare, especially for
And
the
you know when
assessment
it was,
coming up.
you know, when you think, he thinks he has no idea.
That's right, and that's the problem. And the kids trying to communicate what they didn't understand, why they didn't understand it, because they couldn't communicate it, right? So that is on my list to go and troubleshoot what we can do about that. Right now, in the meantime, a parent can always come up, and I know that's inconvenient, but that's what I have right now. You are welcome to come up at any time and see the test until I can figure out how we can work at what we can do to get that information home to tutors and things like that for the kid. I promise you.
Just this type of question that goes to, we don't have to see it.
Right, right.
That would be.
Okay, no, it is here.
Part of the complication with that, I will tell you from the district level, is that there have been instances where private tutors have had old copies of tests that have been, and instead of the tutor using that information to come up with those types of questions to help ensure that they know the material, it was, here's the test, we're gonna work it out together, and you're gonna take the answers and memorize them, and memorize the steps so that you can go to school and you can pass your tests. Because ultimately, you're not gonna pay a tutor who's not helping your kid pass the test, right? But do you sit there with the tutor and make sure they're actually teaching the material, or that they're teaching them what
Are
the
they
answers are?
teaching them the test, or they're teaching the understanding?
You gotta teach the material.
Right, because I had that literally happen verbatim last year. And the student came in, took a test. This 8th grade math happened to have an A and B. The student didn't know that. But it wasn't the student's fault, it was the tutor's fault, right? Now, what the kid did do was, no, he didn't, that was another year. He literally took the test, but he somehow got it all screwed up and he did the wrong test because he had memorized it, or whatever the case is. So, long story short, that was kind of a battle between the mom, the dad, and the parent, and the teacher, and everybody wanted to point fingers. Whose fault it was those tests are leaving the building and getting in the wrong hands. And therefore, now we have just a security breach. And it's not fair for all the other kids who did it the right way. And this kid, like, literally had 100%. 100% on the wrong test. So go figure that one out. It was just very obvious, and the parent, like, you know, you couldn't even believe you were sitting up there listening to this argument because you just, Mom, like, I know that you feel bad for your kid is going to, and the teacher, we were able to talk them into at least letting the kid come in and retake and not suffer that 0, which was a big thing to do. But anyhow, that's exactly why right now it's just getting them out into the wrong hands. And West Plano, Renner, community, whatever reason, you know, we're willing to pay for those tutors. And we want to make sure that they're the right people out there doing the right thing for your kid and not setting them up to fail. Because if the kid had to come in here blind without that tutor, how much is it can they do, you know, on their own as well?
I mean, and you may see if he can, I would bet money his teacher would probably let him come in for tutorials to look over his stuff.
But he still does.
Himself,
Yeah, he
is a
comes in.
classroom teacher there, and be able to ask questions about what he missed. That doesn't help you be able to help him,
Right.
but he could, you know, make notes about the kind of mistakes he made or whatever.
But I agree with you. I think that the parents need to be able to see those. I really do. So we're going to figure it out. Absolutely. Especially math. Yeah.
Any other questions?
It's for Ms. Libra.
Mhm.
If you email a teacher, and I don't email teachers that often, in the past 3 years, I've maybe emailed 2 teachers twice. What is it? How long should I expect to get a response?
Well, great question. And I am going to say 24 hours, anywhere between 24, I think when you start getting into the 48, that's pushing it. But 24 hours is the district's, I think, expectation. And I think that that's totally fair.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I was
And
getting an answer like 2 weeks later. And
that's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna tell you, this is what you do on that, and it tends to work, which is sad, but I do work with the teacher at that point when I have to do that. It's not like I just do it and then I don't go and follow up with the teacher. If you haven't heard from the teacher in over 24 hours, then you can send that same attached email back of some sort to me and the teacher saying, you know, Ms. Pegram or whatever, or just straight to the teacher. There's something about seeing my name in there that will prompt them to go ahead and answer you. And it has worked 100% of the time, and I'm sad that it takes that. But again, it gives me, you know, some good feedback to give to that teacher about, you know, I need you to be responding to parents in a very timely manner. And I get that they're busy, I understand that.
Okay.
But the fact is that it's still a part of their job to make sure that they're communicating with parents.
And I don't expect them to answer even if, 1 day or 2, but I mean,
Yeah, 2 weeks is like ridiculous,
Yeah.
yes. You've been on vacation and everything. Probably forgotten what you asked.
I have a question, not related to the parent portal, but just for you. So, as I mentioned, my son is in 8th grade. He just moved here from out of the country, actually. He's in first year. Do you have, or do you plan to have any sort of a buddy program for your newer students that come in? At least a one-on-one, something that can help them acclimatize. or
No,
get
we are
used to-
actually looking into building what we're gonna call an ambassador program, which would be, assigning a veteran student to a new student, and they just connect them for the whole year or for as long as that new student may need them. Where they will actually do check-ins, follow-throughs, and things like that. Occasionally, we'll provide the time for them to just meet, right? And, maybe have lunch, working with the teachers to coordinate that, or have the ambassador luncheon here or something like that. As a matter of fact, that was on my radar. And it was a great idea. I can't say that I thought of that. It was a parent, who actually thought of that, and we brainstormed together on the spot, and I just love the idea.
And
So
when is
yes.
that? Is that going to start?
Hopefully, yes, because I took it to the counselors not too long ago, so I really want that to start up.
Because we found, because he's in 8th grade, I think there are leagues and groups already
Yeah.
formed. So he's finding it a bit hard to break through, and
The 8th grade is
it actually
that tough
affects
year.
even the teamwork assignments and things
Absolutely.
like that. So I'm noticing that a lot more. We moved around a lot, so he's usually never had a problem. Of course, he was much younger.
Mhm.
So I'm just, curious, anything would help to
Yes.
get more.
No, that's great. I love the idea. We'll be working on that very soon.
Any other questions? Fire away. What others?
The,
On the homepage?
the next part over where you go to classes. In my
Oh.
classes.
Essen-
Education
Essentially,
portal.
yes.
Okay.
Because that's the My PISD pages, and our teachers are all creating Google sites and using Google Classroom.
Some of them may
This
have it,
is,
but it's-
I mean, some of them will. The problem is it's not very back-end user-friendly.
Can they, in your meeting, can they at least put in their little section, just two little things they can put in there, they can put their Google Classroom.
Say, well, go here, go here.
Yeah, if they could at least put that and their remind, thing.
You're talking in this.
Yeah, on the education portal, we have my classes and they can each put something in, they could just, if they could just write in their Google Classroom webpage information and their,
Is that yours? This is Robert's. Oh.
but those two things, those
So
two
what is
pieces of information would
So this,
be
yeah,
nice
so
sometimes.
the education portal, which is their mypisd.net.
So what would he see from the teacher? No, that's
Whatever
not.
they, when my
I
computer is in
have a
sixth
teacher
grade,
that
his
does
English
this.
teacher used this to put assignments.
Claire's a science teacher uses it.
It's, you don't know how, like, this is, you guys remember Nightmare on Elm
So
Street?
the only
Freddy
thing,
Krueger, like,
Robert
this is
doesn't have
what
any
this is.
teachers though. That's the only thing that's showing up is the library page.
Cause
for Robert.
it's literally like.
It's a nightmare.
Well,
is a
it
nightmare.
crashes. Like, when you try to
crashes.
upload stuff, it crashes.
So, which is
I
why,
was just
what,
like, two pieces of information.
I know.
Because it's not anywhere else, it's not on your website.
And what we're doing now, I'm so glad you brought that up, we are actually creating, Gwen Bauman is our, social media guru, so what she's doing is, she's going to create a table of content for all the teachers' social media addresses to go on our website. So if you have mine, like if, you know, every sixth grade teacher will have whatever it is that they have, Google page, Remind, if it's My PISD, you'll be able to find the teacher's name and go and see how you can access their information and their work. We're gonna put that on our Renner website page, yes. I know, that's huge, isn't it? Yeah.
So the teacher, do they really have a website or somewhere to put their calendar, like when it's a class,
And that's
in
what-
school? or
Like, that would be their Google page, that a lot of them like to use. The My PISD, the instrument is just awful. The district just, we don't have anything that supports it, so it crashes and it just does crazy things. But that's what I was just saying, that we'll have that table of contents, you'll be able to go and find where the teacher would put that information, so that you can stay informed as a parent.
Some teachers come from Remind, some maybe
Yeah.
now, you know.
I know, it's all over the place here,
Yeah.
it is.
See, Ms. Marsh, next thing,
She actually
just a little bit of information.
That helps, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Anything's good.
But if she put her Google and her, that's all I do.
You know what, if they have Google pages, we should list you.
That's what we're gonna do. That's what we're gonna do.
Well, the Remind is on like their websites. So if you go here and it's got a link to their personal website, it'll be there.
They're right there.
Some point in time, we knew.